Good morning to all those listeners out there who are listening into Binjang. And it's Tony Graham here, and it's time for Tech Talk with Mathew Dickerson. Good morning, Matthew.
Yeah, good morning, Tony. It's becoming more and more accustomed, or we're all becoming more and more accustomed, aren't we, just to having this virtual world we live in. It would be good to get in the studio with you again one day and actually sit down face to face.
It would be better, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And everything's about COVID-19, of course, at the moment, and that just so happens to be the subject of our first topic in a roundabout way anyway, because Apple has tweaked their Face ID to bypass facial mask during the coronavirus pandemic. So what are they doing instead, Matthew?
Well, it's interesting. Obviously, Apple have been very keen on their Face ID, their facial recognition. Back in about 2017, when their latest range of phones came out, they changed over from fingerprint scanning to Face ID. And that's been fantastic. It's very quick to unlock. They've been very clever in the way they've done it, where you can actually have it unlock with a scarf on or glasses on or a hat on. So it's pretty comprehensive in how many different situations it can unlock the phone in, except a facial mask. When you put a facial mask on, the phone can't recognise you. And you can imagine that there's so much of your face covered up with a facial mask that obviously it makes sense that it's not going to be able to unlock. So Apple, in their latest iOS, it hasn't come out yet, it's only in beta testing at the moment, but in their latest iOS, they'll actually have the ability for people to be automatically recognise that they've got a facial mask on, and then rather than continue to try and recognise the face, which normally the phone will do, it will go straight to your PIN. So you can put your PIN in to unlock, because of course you still can use your PIN to unlock the phone if it doesn't recognise your face. So this is a way just to circumvent that whole process. So again, it's one of the many examples of different companies around the world changing what they do and how they do it because of COVID-19.
Well, Matthew, there might be far less cracked screens out there as a result of this.
You think some of the looks might be a bit harmful to screens, do you, Tony?
Oh, something like that, yes.
What are you saying about your listeners? I think they're all very attractive people out there in your listener land.
Yeah, but my screen's cracked at the moment, I notice.
I won't make any comment about how that happened.
Please don't. Now, the coronavirus vaccines allegedly made from blood of recovered COVID-19 patients are up for sale on the dark web. Now, this is pretty bad stuff, and particularly because this is a method by which you can cure this disease with, but it's not a practical method.
Well,
so people are obviously being trapped into the idea of it's just witchcraft, isn't it?
Well, it is unfortunate. We have mentioned before that it is pretty sad that you've got so many people out there that are trying to fight this pandemic and obviously trying to do the right thing to try and get the world back to some form of normal, whatever normal will look like in the future. It'll be interesting to see. But unfortunately, you've got some people out there trying to take advantage of COVID-19, and out on the dark web, there are so many different things that you can buy, including, yeah, sure, vaccines that are made from the blood of people that have actually had the coronavirus. And I think the big thing here is that some of the things that are available on the dark web are so convincing, they sound so impressive, and so people can get sucked into them really easily. And there are a huge number of different cures and vaccines and even just standard, for example, anti-malarial drugs, which unfortunately someone has made mention of somewhere that maybe that will be a cure going into the future, and suddenly, who knows, the price has gone. Yes, some crazy person that's in charge of some country or whatever.
Oh, okay. They really trumped that one, didn't they?
Oh, please. They're getting worse, aren't they? But look, researchers from the Australian National University, their Cybercrime Observatory, they put a report out that just talked about a number of different things, and they found 645 listings, 222 items across 110 different vendors that are basically going through and trying to sell this stuff. And some of the value of it's quite incredible. Like, if you just looked at all the unique listings and the value of those, $369,000 is what you'd spend on just buying one of each of these items. A vaccine, for example, median price, $575. But you can buy vaccines out there up to $15,000 US for some of these vaccines, which of course we know at the moment there is no known vaccine. There's a lot of organisations around the world, legitimate organisations, working on a vaccine, but there's no actual vaccine at the moment. So any of this money you pay is pretty definitely going to be used just to put in someone's pocket and not actually give you any benefit whatsoever. But there's face masks and a whole range of things that are out there on the dark web. And again, with all of this, being sceptical is probably the first step that you need to take. You just need to be very sceptical about anything you see out there in terms of COVID-19 and just see who it's coming from. When there is a cure, when there is a vaccine, we will know about it pretty quickly. It'll be big news across the world.
Absolutely. Now, the coronavirus app is a really big topic at the moment. I might add that there's some new apps being developed as well by other concerns for helping social distancing, so that in the workspace, for example, businesses can have these apps on their phones to alert workers when they get close to each other, say in a factory situation. But that's interesting. But on the other hand, the most important thing at the moment is the government's coronavirus app. Now, the privacy concerns, I think, are pretty much of a red herring. But the iPhone performance is hindering the COVID Safe app. And it's interesting how this works, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And there's a range of things here. We talked about it last week, and within a couple of days, they got 2 million downloads. And I did say that I still thought the government was dreaming at 40%. We're up to about 3 and even 4 million I've heard reports about so far downloads. But again, we're a long way away from that 10...
It's over 4 million.
Over 4 million, yeah. Okay. So, but that's still a long way away from the 10 million that we need. And again, that's a big jump. And I did say at the time last week that with this sort of technology, typically you see a big spike and then it'll slow down pretty quickly. So the first day or two performance, fantastic. People like myself were downloading it, wanted to have a look at it, but it soon dropped off. One of the big things I think that the government needs to do pretty quickly is release the source code. They have said they'll release the source code. And I think if they release the source code and allow that to be scrutinised publicly, then I think that will go a long way towards basically resolving some of those privacy issues, letting non-government agencies have a look at that source code and see what's there. And essentially, I think once they do that, then people will have a bit more confidence. So there are people with privacy concerns, whether they be valid or invalid. If it's a concern that a person has, it's valid as far as they're concerned. But if they get some people external looking at that source code, that might put their mind at rest. So I think the important thing here is that essentially we continue on, the government continues on putting that information out there, making sure that they're being as open and transparent as possible in everything they do, and that will, I think, give people more confidence in the community.
Yeah. So have you downloaded the app, Matthew?
Yeah, I downloaded it almost as soon as you could. I don't think on the hour of 6 p.m. on the Sunday night, but not long after that. I registered. I used my real name, Tony. A lot of people are using fake names, and that's fine. It's your phone number that's the important part there. Getting your phone number in there so that you can be contacted, and some people don't want their names there. Look, I don't have any major concerns about it. The amount of information that is already out there on the internet about you and I in terms of our shopping habits and information that we've put through the net. I mean, it's all out there already. Think about TikTok.
There's a lot more out there than what this app will ever gather.
That's exactly right. And TikTok, they just ticked over, excuse the pun, 2 billion downloads, and that's a Chinese-owned app that people are happy to download and put information on. So when your government says we need this to help fight a virus, I think that's okay.
And look, there's legislation about prosecuting people if they misuse the information, unlike these other organisations, the businesses who are using your information.
Correct.
So anyway, Matthew, I've downloaded it as well. So I guess that makes us patriots.
Sensible, common sense, patriots, whatever way you want to put it, Tony.
Yes. And we don't believe in conspiracy theories either, do we?
Well, look, it's always good to have an open mind, but you've just got to question some of the conspiracy theories you see. You've just got to sit back, take one step back and say, does that make sense? And so often it just doesn't.
Yes, it doesn't,
yeah.
Well, healthy scepticism is great, but
correct.
You've just got to draw the line. What's common sense and what isn't.
That's right. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. Healthy scepticism, absolutely. I'm a big fan of being sceptical about things, but just apply that common sense rule to things and say, who would do this? Why would they do that? What's the motivation for it? And does it make sense that it's even possible? And again, when you do all that, you might come with some sort of common sense final conclusion from it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, Matthew. As you know, I don't use Facebook. I use a work Facebook page, but because of these kind of concerns, I deliberately haven't used Facebook over the years because I knew what it would lead to, and it has. Same thing with Google. My presence there is also a very small footprint. But with the coronavirus app, I have no concerns whatsoever.
Yeah.
Now, well, there is some concerns, but they'll get fixed. But they're only minor ones. Now, the COVID safe app hacks. Now, this is pretty low stuff. There's texts have started circulating about the COVID safe app, which are absolutely wrong, aren't they?
Yeah, one of the things that's really interesting is...
Morally wrong, if anything else.
That's right. And again, we know some of these scammers, morals don't really come into the equation, unfortunately. But in essence, what you've got are some people out there who are sending text messages, trying to trick people into doing things. And one of the text messages that went out said that we've detected that you're more than 20 kilometres from home. Please contact MyGov immediately to let them know why you're so far away from home. Now, the actual app itself doesn't track where you are. People have talked about that. The government has guaranteed that. There's no GPS tracking. It's using Bluetooth to see how close you are to other people and then record that you're being close to another phone. But it doesn't say where those phones are. When you do actually register for the app, you do put your postcode in so that if there is an outbreak in a certain postcode, for example, if 2820 or 2830 or whatever the postcode might be, suddenly there's an outbreak, they can contact people who have registered with that postcode quicker and easier. But there is no tracking of your location. So the ability for the app to say that you're suddenly 20 kilometres from home would be impossible, again, based on the fact that there's no GPS tracking in the app. But what's trying to happen here, in my belief, is that people are trying to start to get some text messages out there to basically get to the next step. And you're always looking about what's someone trying to do with a scam, and it's really about trying to give away some of those personal details to ultimately usually steal some money from you. So when you start to put some links through there, start to say, contact MyGov, here's a link for MyGov, then what you might be doing is you might put in your details to a website just to say, I'm away from home because I've got to go and pick up my child, or whatever the reason might be. What they're trying to do is trying to get you to put your details in. So the simple answer to it always is any link you see, anything you get through, don't go and put your details directly in, because that's usually what the scammers are trying to find is to get your password and your details.
Absolutely. And you've been listening to Tech Talk this morning on Binjang 91.5 with Mathew Dickerson, and I'm your host, Tony Graham, and stay tuned this afternoon for our next session. In the meantime, it's back to the great music and programs on Binjang.